Hi everyone and welcome to my video. My name's Emma and in this video I'm going to be talking you through how to carry out the reverse bay park. I'm going to be looking at a couple of different methods in order to help you with this, as well as reference points. They are guidance reference points to help you, and we're going to be doing both the left and the right reverse. So that's the reverse bay park, left and right, various different methods for you to try, and then you can choose kind of which one suits best for yourself, and we're going to be putting a few reference points in there to try and guide you along the way. So for the left reverse bay park, we're going to keep our position over to the right hand side to start with, and that's to provide us with the most amount of space possible in order to get into the parking space without inconvenience anyone else or becoming too close to parked cars. Now I am positioned over to the right hand side and I've got my left reference points lined up, so I've got my white line coming in towards the centre of the car. So I've also got my rear reference point of the white line coming into the back corner of the window lined up, so that tells me that my reference points are correct and that I can now start with my manoeuvre. So from this position, I'm going to put the vehicle in reverse. If necessary, I'm going to pop a left signal on to let people know that my intention is to reverse over to my left hand side, and I'm going to put my full lock on towards the left hand side to bring the vehicle around at an angle, keeping an eye on both my left mirror and also on my right mirror as I continue round. As I reverse back, I'm checking on my left mirror. I can see there that the line is starting to come up the side of the car, the door handle's going within the space. That's telling me that I'm going into my space, and as I transfer back across and look into my right mirror, again I can see that the car is going within the line. This is still with my full lock on to the left, and just before I become parallel in my space, I can feel the car working its way over. I'm going to take my turn and a half off, and that then is going to take me really nicely straight back into my space. So this time, as I reverse over to the right hand side, the reverse right bay park, I'm going to start my position towards the left hand side. Again, if I feel it's necessary, I'm going to pop a right signal on to let people know that I intend to turn over towards the right when I start to reverse. My reference points are now lined up, so I've got my white line again heading towards the centre of the door, and at that back window I've also got my white line that's lined up. So I know that my reference points are now correct. Popping it into reverse gear and put my full lock on towards the right hand side, so that's turn and a half towards the right. That's going to keep me coming round. So as I'm reversing back, I'm checking more on my right hand mirror at this stage, looking to see that the car is going within the line. Also checking back over towards my left mirror, and again I can see there that the car is going within the line. As I become parallel almost with my space, I'm then going to take my turn and a half off to bring my wheels straight, and then I'm going to reverse nicely back into the space, keeping it a nice straight line, keeping really good observations, looking around as I go. And again I'm going to use that reference point of imagining a line running along the top of the bays, and then once my mirror sits just there, I'm going to bring it to a nice stop, and that tells me then that I'm nicely within the space. Now the 90-degree angle works nicely for some people, but there are other ways in which you can carry out the reverse bay park. So for this method, I'm going to reverse over to my right hand side, but currently I'm situated on the right hand side, and the reason for that being is I'm going to drive myself forward so that I'm physically sat roughly middle of the parking space. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to steer over to the left hand side so that I'm actually approaching the space from an angle. So I'm steering over to my left. I'm also looking in my mirror and over my shoulder as I go, so I can see just there how nicely everything's lined up. I'm not far enough forward that I'm actually going into them spaces behind, but I'm now at a really good angle where I can pop it into reverse gear, steer back towards the right hand side whilst checking up on my mirror and also in my space, looking over my right hand shoulder to check on the space, as well as working on all my other observations to make sure everything's safe. And I'm just guiding it into the space, putting more or less steer on as it's needed, checking over to my left hand mirror to make sure that I'm going into the space on that side. We can see there that it's going in. That's it there. We can see there that it's going in on both sides. And then same again, just before I'm into my space, and take my turn so that my wheels become straight, so 10.5 off, and then I'm just going to reverse back in a nice straight line. So now we're going to do the diagonal method towards the left hand side, so it's going to be a left reverse bay park. So again, I'm starting from the left hand side. I'm going to draw forward so that I'm approximately level with the middle of a parking space. You can see that just there. And then as I move forward now, I'm going to steer over towards my right hand side. So it's quite a lot of steer I'm putting on, really getting my angle across, checking on my mirror as I go. Working that mirror, you can see there the line coming round towards that door handle. That's a really good indication for me there that I'm going into the space. Popping it back into reverse, and this time I'm going to be steering back over to the left hand side. And I'm using my left mirror. I can see there that I'm going into the space, and as I transfer back over to my right mirror, again I can see that it's going nicely there into the space. Taking it round until I'm parallel, taking my 10.5 off again, and then just taking it back into the space. The last method that we're going to look at for the reverse bay park is using the space that's directly opposite your parking space. Now within this car park, I'm going to try and park on the last space that's there on the left hand side, but I'm also conscious that there's a road there in front of us. I'm going to try not to go too far forward, and by doing that I'm going to use the spaces that are over towards the right hand side. Now in this car park they are empty spaces. In other car parks that could be the continuation of the road, so it would be perfectly fine to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to approach my space, which is there on my left hand side. It's this last space I'm going to go into. I'm going to approach on the left hand side, and then as I approach my space, I'm going to really steer it round over to my right hand side, and I'm going to use this space that's here in front of me. And in doing so, I can then use my mirrors and I can start to see the spaces that are there behind me. So in both of my mirrors I can see what's going on behind. So I'm going to go just a little bit further forward and start to straighten up. And actually now if I look at my mirror, I can see the edge of my space on that side, the curb, and in this mirror I can see the white line. So it allows me then to pretty much just straight line reverse back in. Now some would say this is cheating. It's not. It's using the space that's there available to you. Perhaps that's the only opportunity that you've got to be able to go into the space. Still checking on my mirrors as I go. I can see that I'm in nicely on the left, and also there on the right hand side. Obviously carrying out full sets of observations, checking around and out behind me as I reverse back into my space. So that's the third method that we can use in order for that bay park. So you've got your 90-degree angle, you've got slight diagonal, and then the other one is to use that space that's there in front of you, which could be an empty parking space, or perhaps it's a continuation of the road, and then to reverse yourself back into that space using your mirrors in order to guide you in, making sure that you carry out lots of observations. I hope that you found the video really useful. There are obviously different ways in which you can carry out the reverse bay park, and I've tried to cover them within the video. And really it's a case of you finding whichever one suits best for yourself, or whichever suits best for the given situation that you're in. It's always worth trying to explore with the different options, so that if you find yourself in a tricky car park or there's limited space, then you've got more than one idea in terms of how you can carry out that bay park. So hopefully you found it useful. Have a look onto the YouTube channel, there are some other videos on there for the different manoeuvres and various tips in terms of learning to drive. Thanks very much.